Hi there, I'm Lucy Smith and I'm the group accountant at a property company. So I work in the finance function in the organisation, and obviously there are loads of roles within finance, but most specifically I'm in charge of reporting our financial figures twice yearly to our shareholders and other stakeholders. So primarily that means putting together the key financial statements, which are your profit and loss account and your balance sheet. And so that gives an accurate position at a point in time as to their assets and liabilities of the company and also their performance in a year. The big task is that twice yearly I do prepare these accounts for our shareholders. That involves looking into accounting guidelines, and there's quite a lot of rules that you have to follow so that you present them fairly and accurately. And that might seem like quite an easy job, but that takes several weeks to do, so it's quite a big job that happens a couple of times a year and can be quite technical, quite complicated. You might have to speak to the FD of the organisation or external accountants to get advice on how to account for something. Also get involved with tax side of things and working out how much tax we need to pay as a company, and again I've not got tax qualifications, so there's a lot of correspondence with, we have a specific tax manager, so talking to her and getting her advice and help on. And also in preparing these accounts we have to have an audit twice a year, and that is an external firm of accountants come in to essentially check the figures and that we're telling the truth in essence. So there's a lot of liaising with them and helping them understand where our numbers have come from and working with them, I suppose, to get to a final sign-off position that they're happy with the accounts. So the key skills required for a group accountant are A, it helps if you enjoy working with numbers. You don't have to have a maths degree or maths A level necessarily, but it definitely helps if you have an interest because that is what you'll be working on day to day. Another key skill is to be good at communicating. Obviously you will develop this throughout your career anyway, but you work within the finance team, but you will have access to the whole company because it helps to have an overview as to what the whole company does and what's going on at any one time. So for instance, I talk to the surveyors and lawyers and there are other people in all sorts of professions. So you have to be happy and confident to do that. So a typical route into an accountancy career is generally people tend to start working in an audit firm. So that is a big professional services firm. You may have heard of the big four, so PwC, Ernst & Young, KPMG and Deloitte. Then there are slightly smaller firms, so Grant Thornton, BDO, and there are a whole host of hundreds of other firms that you can apply to and work. And generally these, you can either go in after university, and if you're going to a smaller firm that's probably more likely, but a lot of the large firms offer school leaver programs as well. And whilst you're there, you'll be working in audit. As I mentioned earlier, you'll be going out on site to a lot of different companies, and instead of preparing the financial statements, you'll be checking them and auditing them to check that what the directors are saying is correct. Whilst you're there, so you'll tend to sign into a 3-year contract if you've left university, or it will be longer if you're leaving school, perhaps 5 years. And while you're there, you'll get your work experience, and you'll be on a training contract. So probably the ACA is often what people do, or ACCA, and there are various other accounting qualifications. And these take about 3 to 5 years and have a number of exams attached over that period. I know the ACA is about 15 exams at the moment, and I think the others are similar. You could also go into industry, into a more commercial role, so you'd still have the finance understanding, but that can lead to, perhaps if you don't want to be preparing the accounts, you can look into future cash flows and other financial aspects of a company. Or alternatively, you could go to a more corporate finance role, look at mergers and acquisitions. I'm no expert there, so I won't carry on too much, but it does open a lot of doors. So I personally went to university, but I studied geography, so I had nothing to do with accountancy, maths, finance, business background at all. And that really wasn't a problem with getting the job. I studied something that I wanted to study for 4 years, so yeah, that doesn't have to put you off. You don't have to go and do a business degree. Then I applied online to a number of firms and ended up getting a placement at BDO. Did my 3-year qualification there and then stayed on for another 3 years before moving into industry, where I am now. So I went to university, but you certainly don't have to become an accountant. A lot of the large firms do offer school leaver programs. You would have to achieve a certain standard at your A-levels, which I'm not entirely sure what that is, and I imagine it will vary for different firms, so that's worth checking out, but by all means you don't have to go to university to become an accountant. So when I started out training in 2010, I started on a salary of just above £25,000, which I think was fairly standard in the industry. I imagine that may have changed slightly 10 years later, but it was a fairly good starting salary at university. And then once you qualify, it jumps fairly significantly, I think to about 45,000, but again this will be firm dependent and may well have changed from then. So that's what you sort of can expect once you qualify. And then there are so many different jobs as mentioned after qualifying that the salary really does depend on where you want to take it from there. So getting work experience, from my experience, tends to be applying online to a lot of the larger firms do offer sort of summer programs for either graduates or school leavers, I think, between lower sixth and upper sixth. But as far as applying, I think it is just online. Some examples of companies where you can apply, I would think the larger firms tend to offer more spots in these summer programs, so that would be a good place to start. So you've got the big four, so PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, Ernst & Young. BDO and Grant Thornton offer, I know because I worked at BDO, they offer a summer program and they have quite a number of spots. And then lots of the smaller companies, I'm afraid I don't know the ins and outs of them, but if you look up online, I'm sure you should be able to find out information and apply there directly. I think most importantly, the advice I would give to somebody starting out in their career is don't panic. You've got a lot of years ahead of you to work, and if you don't get it right first time, it doesn't matter. You can start on one career path and change. After 5-10 years, you've still got a lot of years ahead of you to work. I also would say try to find out what motivates you and what you enjoy, because you, like I said, you will be working for a long time, and that is really key. The thing I enjoy most about my job is that at group level you get a huge overview of how a company works and the ins and outs, and you feel like you can actually be quite involved in what's going on, and you're certainly not pigeonholed to knowing a certain aspect of the company. You get an overview of everything. So for instance, I work in a company with a lot of large strategic sites, and I feel like I have an overview of what's going on in all of them as opposed to just one or two. Another thing I enjoy about my job is the level of exposure it gives you to all sorts of different people within the group. So the FD I work very closely with, but also lawyers, surveyors, people from all sorts of different backgrounds, and you definitely learn a lot from working with other people.